Bill Belichick era is over, but a familiar face in Jerod Mayo replaces him. And one of the first acts of business was to get Mac Jones out of there and replace him with a new face of the franchise and third overall pick, Drake May. So what lies ahead for the beginning of this new dynasty? What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know so, and welcome back to the Deep Dive series where we take a deep look at each and every NFL team and project how they will do in 2024. And next is the New England Patriots. I'm a Dolphins fan, so fins up, baby. But I will be as objective as I can. But let's first talk about their 2023. Despite losing the first two games of the regular season, the Patriots fell only one score short of beating a good Dolphins team and the Super Bowl runner-up Philadelphia Eagles. The following week, the offense did fall off a cliff, but the Patriots still managed to beat the Jets thanks to a 58-yard Farrell Brown touchdown. Then they headed to Dallas, where the world virtually ended. Mac Jones was terrible as he gave up a pick six and a fumble six, and they lost Matthew Judon and promising rookie Christian Gonzalez to season-ending injuries. The following week, they were shut out by the New Orleans Saints, where Mac Jones once again threw a pick six and was ultimately benched. The bad play continued into week 5 in a close loss to the Raiders, but things started to look up the following weeks with a win versus the Bills and close losses to the Dolphins and Commanders. Jones would be benched against the Colts and then against the Giants, and he would never see the field again. Bailey Zappi would get the start in an ugly loss versus the Chargers. They would get 2 wins versus the Steelers and the Broncos. However, it was truly a season to forget as the Patriots went 4-13. Despite the struggles on offense, the defense played extremely well as they were 14th in pass defense and 1st in run defense. That's incredible when you consider how hurt this defense was, but they could only do so much when they had the lowest scoring offense in the league. Real quick, I gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love Underdog Fantasy because I love football, and now that the football season is far and away, it doesn't mean my betting season has to be, because they do all kinds of sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, esports even. They got you covered, whether that's weekly best ball or my favorite, higher lower on player props. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code BROSHMO, then they will give you a first-time deposit up to $250. That's right. That's right. So if you're going to go and bet with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code BROSHMO, take advantage of this offer, but please bet responsibly and bet within your means. Now, the Patriots didn't lose too much in terms of talent, as they saw guys like Adrian Phillips, Jalen Mills, Miles Bryant, Trent Brown, Ezekiel Elliott, Mike Gesicki. They saw all those guys leave via free agency. They traded Mac Jones, which they were kind of already out on at that point. I think Lawrence Guy retired. If not, might still be a free agent, but Devontae Parker, he ends up signing, I think, with the Eagles, but then ends up retiring. So they didn't lose much in the way of talent. And in terms of free agency, they focused on retaining their own guys, but they added some good depth pieces here and there. For instance, Jacoby Brissett, probably their biggest free agent acquisition, as he's going to come in and set the way for new face of the franchise quarterback, Drake May. The question is, how many games will Brissett start until May is ready and comes in? That's going to be interesting to see, but Brissett is a very solid bridge option, and he's also very familiar with the squad. But like I said, this team really focused on bringing back their guys like Michael Onwenu. They brought back Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, but they did add depth like a KJ Osborne, who really might be wide receiver 4 or 5 on this squad at best. They did re-sign Kendrick Bourne and Jalen Reagor, will Reagor make the team? I don't know. They did bring back Hunter Henry. But Sione Takitaki, I really like this addition. Even if he ends up just being a depth player, he's kind of coming off a breakout year with the Browns. And the Patriots love size at linebacker. I mean, just look at guys like Jawan Bentley and Jelani Tavai. So even if he's just coming in to be a depth piece, that's a valuable depth piece that you have. Mac Wilson left via free agency. So I think he's going to get his snaps and then some. He should be maybe a 400 to 500 snap guy if things go well. They did add Austin Hooper as depth as they parted ways with Jonnu Smith. Fins up, baby. Dolphin now. Hopefully that goes well. But yeah, I mean, Antonio Gibson might be their next biggest signing, as he's going to kind of be the change of pace guy for Ramondre Stevenson. He is someone that brings that receiving potential to the backfield. He was a former receiver at Memphis. And yeah, you're not really going to work him as a running back. He had, I think, like 5 fumbles last season, but you're going to take advantage of what he can do as a receiving option. They brought in Okorafor, who now might be the starting left tackle. I mean, as a depth option, don't mind, but I mean, they weren't able to address tackle until the 3rd round. Do you really want to start that guy right away? Okorafor, yeah, he's a stopgap option. He's a replacement level starter. I think it's fine. It's a 1-year deal, so I'm not too hurt about that. Armand Watts is kind of a journeyman at this point in his career, but he's good depth on the interior. Nick Leverett is, again, good depth. You have the injury, the knee injury with Cole Strange. Will he start? Well, he's not going to start the year, but will he be given back his starting duties there at left guard, or is it going to be someone else? Maybe a Leverett, or maybe you got Mafi there, who they drafted last year at UCLA. That's something to watch out for. Jalen Hawkins, good special team player that gives them depth at safety. I mean, I think if anything, it's going to be him and Joshua Bledsoe battling out there for like safety 4 on the squad. But let's go ahead and let's talk about what they did in the draft, because this was game changing. They took Drake May, 3rd overall. Not too shocked that he was there at 3. Reports were that the Commanders really loved them. Jaden Daniels. But for me, May was my quarterback too. I think he's got a bigger ceiling than Jaden Daniels. He's got very extraordinary arm talent, but maybe someone you don't want to throw to the wolves, especially considering how bad your offense was last year. It's not like he has a plethora of playmakers to throw to. It's not like the offensive line, at least in terms of pass blocking, was that good last year. So maybe you don't necessarily want to throw him to the wolves and just kill his confidence. If anything, that's how you kill a rookie quarterback. You put him out there, he plays bad, and you kill his confidence. It's hard to come back from that. We've seen many rookie quarterbacks go down this path and fail in that regard. So you may want to protect Drake May early on, and that's why you brought in Brissett. But I really like the pick of May. And then we go to round 2 and they get a receiver, which, hey, you better come out of this draft with the receiver. It was a very good wide receiver draft. And they get Jalen Polk. The only thing is, I don't think Jalen Polk is a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's got that alpha in him. I think he could be a very good number 2. He's got flexibility on the outside and in the slot. He could create after the catch. Might not be like blow you away in terms of athleticism, but a guy that is a much craftier route runner than you'd expect. I really like Polk a ton, but I would love to see them get like an alpha wide receiver 1, and they just won't have that next year in my opinion. But adding a little bit of variety to the wide receiver core, I ain't mad at it. That was a good pick in my opinion. And then they go with Caden Wallace, which this was a little higher than where I had him. I also thought he might be a guy that ends up playing guard in the NFL. But now you're going to be essentially moving him to left tackle. And I think it would be disastrous if he starts the year. I think you'll probably run with Okorafor as you develop Wallace and get him ready for that day. But I mean, at this juncture in the draft, we saw a lot of tackles like early in the 3rd round start to fly off the board. So, well, yeah, late 2nd, early 3rd. So it didn't surprise me that they wanted to get on that before the tackle position became barren. And then with their next pick, they got Layden Robinson at pick 103, top of the 4th round. That one was a little higher than where I had him, but he was someone once thought of as a very that could potentially be an early day 2 player. he was very much up and down at Texas A&M. You're getting a really powerful guard who, I don't know, he's going to be in the running there to start opening day at left guard with Cole Strange out. So I can see why they went out and got him, but I just don't think he's got those athletic traits. And again, we'll talk about the coaching staff, like Alex Van Pelt. It's going to be very fascinating to see specifically what he chooses to run for this squad, as you'll see where his coaching influences come from and the variety. Like, really, he's going to go with whatever best suits this offense. So I could definitely see them leaning a bit more into like the power and the power run concepts, gap concepts that we've seen Stefanski incorporate in his offense after really being more of an outside zone type of blocking scheme. But Robinson, it'll be fascinating to see if he starts early on. The remainder of their draft, I loved this pick at 110, Javon Baker. Can he be an alpha? I don't know, but man, he's got that ability on the outside where he could burn you deep, he can moss you, or he can tear you up in the short passing game, whether it's on slants, screens, stuff like that. I was a big fan. I had a day 2 grade on Baker, so I like this pickup quite a bit. I like that they chose the double dip at wide receiver in this class as well, with how talented the position was. And then they grab Marcellus Dial. Sounds like they're going to keep him at corner. I don't know. We'll take a look at the R-Lads page where it lists the depth chart, but he's got size to move to corner if you really want him to. Good straight line speed. Made some plays there for South Carolina last couple of years. Joe Milton. I mean, I guess he's their developmental quarterback in this regard. I think ultimately I was pounding the table like, this guy, just make the transition to tight end, dude. Start that right now, because I think it could be similar to like a Logan Thomas type of trajectory. But it sounds like he wants to play quarterback. They want him to play quarterback, so they're just going to develop him there. And he could be kind of like a wildcat power option, maybe a tush push option if they ever get close to the goal line. Jaheim Bell was also a very good pickup. He is very much a tight end 2 H-back. Not a guy that's going to play a lot in line, but what he can do as a receiver is really, really good. What he can do as a downhill blocker is pretty darn solid as well. So you can get real creative and real fancy with him. And that wraps up their selections. And like, ultimately, I like what they did this offseason. They didn't necessarily make the big splash play in free agency, and they just focused on bringing back some of the guys that they were like, oh no, these are good players, we want them on the roster. And they went out in the draft and they were like, okay, we know we're going to get a quarterback at 3. Let's double dip in this wide receiver class because we need it. And they also addressed the offensive line, granted with players I thought were a bit reaches, but I could understand, at least with Caden Wallace's regard, where that draft, you saw tackles flying off the board. You had to get in on the party. If not, you wouldn't have felt good about taking one in the 4th round. I understand the logic and whatnot, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about this coaching staff. So the Patriots will be rocking a new head coach and new coordinators, but to be fair on the defensive end of things, it's familiar faces, as Jerod Mayo is the new head coach for the New England Patriots, promoted from DC. Before that, he was working as a position coach. And this dude used to play linebacker for the Patriots from 2008 to 2015. So he's been there for a while. He's been under Bill Belichick's learning tree, so to speak, for quite some time. And now he gets to be the head coach. This is going to be his defense. I'm trying to remember one of the Patriots defenders went on to a podcast, talked about how now they're going to be dealing with a new playbook, so there's going to be some different things in there, but I can't imagine them stray too far away from what they did last year under Bill Belichick, because that was a good defense in spite of how hurt it was. It was very good. So I imagine we're still going to see a very familiar defense in terms of, okay, this is going to be like an attacking 3-4, but this is a team that likes to either load up with defensive line players or add in a couple of safeties and they'll maybe go out with really only 1 or 2 linebackers, and then they'll bring some heat. They'll bring the pressure. Last year, their blitz rate 35.2%. That was 4th in the NFL. This was a team that played a lot of man coverage, and I think they have the horses to do that. So I don't think they're going to stray too far away from what they did last year. But again, the report is, there will be some changes, which, what do they consider changes? How big, how small will those changes be? I don't think they're going to stray too far from a formula that was already very effective. His DC will be DeMarcus Covington. He's been with the Patriots for a little while as a positions coach and assistant. He's been here since 2017. Before that, he was the co-defensive coordinator for Eastern Illinois, and he actually played wide receiver at Samford. So, fun fact there. But again, for all intents and purposes, this is Mayo's defense. He's calling it. When it comes to the offense, they actually go outside of the organization. They bring in Alex Van Pelt, who was formerly the offensive coordinator for the Browns. So he comes over to New England and accepts the same position. But before that, he was a quarterbacks coach for a large array of teams. We're talking like the Bengals, Packers, Bills, Bucks. And to be fair, Aaron Rodgers had a lot of good things to say about Alex Van Pelt, but there's always going to be that question. How much of it was Rodgers? Because we look at Nathaniel Hackett and we're like, okay, so Aaron Rodgers was the OC. That's why I don't have grades for Alex Van Pelt when it comes to the run offense or the pass offense, because we just haven't seen what he can do. He may have been the OC there at Cleveland, but he was the play designer while Kevin Stefanski was the play caller. What can he do as a play caller? What offense is he going to really adapt to the Patriots? Those are all lingering questions. So for the most part, I think it's still going to be maybe relatively a heavy outside zone blocking scheme, which they get that influence from Gary Kubiak. But we saw Kevin Stefanski start to incorporate more man and gap blocking schemes into that, because you got Nick Chubb. So yeah, you're going to run the football. You're going to run the football a hell of a lot. So let's do it with a little bit of variety. So the question is, okay, what is this offense going to do? And I think they're going to lean more into that power gap blocking scheme just based on the horses they have on the offensive line. Now with Gary Kubiak, it was a lot of play action. It was a lot of, okay, let's try to spread the field, attack that intermediate to long part of the field. And with Stefanski, he didn't mind going into a pro spread, but he was more of this horizontal West Coast offense where they would attack the short to intermediate. And when they did attack long, it was always through the play action. So I think we'll probably see a little bit of that here, as they're going to maybe lean a little bit more on Ramondre Stevenson, which that's great. Hopefully he can stay healthy because he's a really good back. And then they're going to look to attack deep because guys like Polk, he can attack deep. Guys like Javon Baker, he can attack deep. You got Douglas there. He can attack deep. But they won't stray away from maybe a little bit more RPO heavy stuff to get the ball in the hands of guys like Pop Douglas, who legit can make guys miss. Let's look at some of the position coaches here for the Patriots. As Ben McAdoo, he's a senior offensive assistant on here. I hope he has as little input as possible. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to throw that out there. Taquan Underwood, man, do you remember him being a former player? I think he rolled with the Saints. Now he's here as an assistant wide receivers coach. I think that's really cool. I always love seeing former players come in and become coaches. Brian Belichick, the son of Bill, is here as the safeties coach. They got Dante Hightower as the inside linebackers coach. Again, love former players coming in and becoming coaches. I just love that. And he was very good during his tenure with the Patriots there with Gerard Mayo. So yeah, I'm glad to see him included here. I believe that Troy Brown is still on this roster. Yep, he's still in this coaching staff as the return coach, which, hey, let's do that. I like that. Develop Pop Douglas to be a monster in special teams. Let's go. But let's go ahead. Let's take a run through the offense. As when it comes to the offense, I feel really good about this run blocking unit. I've given them a B grade. But when it comes to the passing, man, I'm not there yet. Like, City South still got to develop into becoming a better pass protector. David Andrews is coming off a down year as a pass protector. Really, it's just Michael Owenu who is the anchor here as someone who was good in pass protection. Cole Strange will be out early, but he was also pretty mid as a pass protector. Ultimately, I list him here as a starter because I think he's going to come back and end up being the full-time starter for this squad. But it's going to be interesting to see who takes his place. Will it be second-year player Atonio Mafi, who they drafted in the 5th round out of UCLA, or will it be 4th rounder Layden Robinson? That's the question. Maybe it's even someone who they added just this past offseason, Nick Leverett. The question boggles my mind, so I'm very curious to see who ends up being the hot name coming out of training camp. But we're also going to have a core 4 there at left tackle, who I don't have a lot of faith in as a pass protector. So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you're going to have to start Jacoby Brissett. That's why I listed him as a starter. I think he's going to at least get 8 games as a starter before they even think about going to Drake May. So that's why I got the quarterback room as a D, because, again, you get to rookies. They're kind of hard to project, so it kind of carries the grade down a little bit. So it's a D, but we'll see what it is by the end of the year. Again, what if Drake May comes in, sets the world on fire? Then you're dealing with a very solid rookie season, which, to be fair, I mean, we see more middle-in rookie years at the quarterback position than actual, like, CJ Stroud level years. And then, I mean, you got a really good backup. So, yeah, this grade will go up depending on what Drake May actually is. When it comes to the running backs, Ramondre coming off injury kind of hurts. They got Antonio Gibson as the receiving option, but the depth there isn't too awe-inspiring. And then the playmakers, they got a lot of proof. There's no alpha among them. This feels like a team full of wide receiver 2s and 3s. It truly, truly does. So let's just go ahead. Let's take a gander at the depth at the wide receiver position, as I do think Polk's going to be the starter. They spent the 37th overall pick in him. I think he will be a starter there. Gojo tends to agree, apparently. Kendrick Bourne, he was having a solid year before going down with a ACL injury, so hopefully he could bounce back well from that and continue to be a good wide receiver 2 and 3 for the squad. We saw good things from Demario Douglas last season, who I think he ended up being their receiving leader at the end of the year. Let me just go and confirm that and make sure like it wasn't like a Devontae Parker. Yep, Douglas ended up being the receiving leader by about 120 some yards, with Hunter Henry being second there. But those are, I think, your for sure starters. But I do think Javon Baker is going to be very involved in this wide receiver rotation. He's going to be the wide receiver 4 here, who gives them a vertical threat, more as a jump ball guy in some regards, but also can compete in the short area of the field, can create after the catch. And then Osborne probably is that wide receiver 5, as he's got inside outside versatility. But wide receiver 6 is kind of wide open, as Kayshon Boutte spent many weeks in the doghouse last year. Juju, his knee is ready to explode at any moment. Tyquan Thornton, good vertical threat, but just can't stay healthy. Jalen Reagor, another vertical threat, but kind of meh. So it's gonna be a dogfight for wide receiver 6 on the squad if they hold on to a 6th wide receiver. Quan Baker's there, another kind of vertical jump ball guy in some regards. Going to tight end, this is Hunter Henry. He has been really good for this squad. The statistics may not show it, but to be fair, I think that was more because of the turbulence at quarterback. Austin Hooper's a solid tight end too. I'm cool with that. I think Jaheim Bell makes the squad, just being a versatile body that's a really good receiving threat that they could kind of like just play as a tight end too, play as this H-back downhill blocker type. Mitchell Wilcox is there as well, but that's kind of meh. So they got options in the passing game. It's just they don't have any high-end options. They don't have that wide receiver one. They don't have that alpha guy at wide receiver, but they do have a lot of guys that do a lot of different things. Polk, I feel like, is more to the akin of like a Bourne, who just does a lot of things well, just younger and maybe better, not coming off the ACL injury. Antonio Gibson's going to be very involved as the receiving back in the offense. But looking at the depth they have at running back, Kevin Harris is kind of meh. Was he much different than Pierre Strong, who they had? Not really, but I guess he's there. JaMychal Hasty's had some moments as a rotation back. So I think, if anything, he might be a better option at running back 3 to maybe get a few more carries. They do bring in, as UDFAs, Terrell Jennings. Couldn't tell you much about him. But Deshaun Fenwick, more of a power-oriented back. I feel like he only sniffs the roster if Ramondre Stevenson goes down. That feels like the only way. Now, when it comes to the offensive line, very much these guys scream, hey, this is going to be a gap-heavy power concept team, though they can move and they can do some outside zone blocking. I'm not too worried about that, but I do think they're going to stick with power concepts, especially when you have guys like Michael Owenu, who can be guard, can be tackle, but because of the sheer barrenness of the tackle position, he's playing tackle for him. City Sal, good athlete, strong athlete, still putting together his pass protector, still learning how to hit those landmarks. They're going with this is probably going to be a more power concept run attack. David Andrews has been steady. He's been solid throughout his whole career. I think what age is he at now? I feel like he's probably like closing in on 30, if not already. Let's check that out. He's 31. Yeah, so he's up there in years with Jake Andrews, who they drafted in the 4th round out of Troy in 2023, who they kind of hope might be the heir apparent. I don't know. They're developing him. The question is, what's going to happen on the left side of that line? Okorafor, he probably starts the year. We'll eventually see Caden Wallace, though, with no doubt. I don't want to imagine Vidarian Lowe after just how he had a horrible season last year, but he's depth. You don't want to see him starting, so it's Wallace. They're hoping and praying it's going to be Wallace. Maybe Calvin Anderson, who had an okay year a couple of years ago in Denver. He's a good depth option, just a good backup. I don't think I want to see him as a starter. So, it comes down to Wallace or Okorafor, and I think Wallace we'll see later on in the year, but for the most part, it's going to be Okorafor. At left guard, is it Mafi? Is it Robinson? If they're going to go, those are two guys. If they're going with more power concepts, more of a gap-heavy scheme, those are the type of guys, those are the type of horses you want. So, yeah, if they do want to go with more of an outside zone blocking, heavy scheme, then it's probably Leverett. But we'll see. I think ultimately when Cole Strange is healthy, he will be their guy there at left guard. But the depth is a bunch of guys that are developing. They bring in Charles Turner as a UDFA, and no lie, probably competes to be the backup center with Andrews. Andrews could also probably play. Both those guys could probably also play guard. But Michael Jordan is not making the roster. Don't feel like we need to really talk about him. But at the end of the day, man, I don't have much faith because with this offense, just because of the questions of what is the ceiling on Brissett, May, how is he going to look when he comes in? Can this team become a better pass blocking unit? They don't necessarily have like high-end weapons. They're definitely in the bottom of the league when it comes to that regard. So I do have their overall as a D-. I do think it's better than it was last year. I think they're headed in the right direction offensively. I just don't think we're going to see it for another year. When it comes to the defense, this is one of the better units
in the league. I might not be high on them in terms of pass rush, but they are one of the best run defenders, on top of the coverage unit trending in the right direction. So let's go ahead and talk about the pass rush, because, I mean, man, they were hurting once Judon went down. It really became just the Christian Barmore show, who is a special freaking talent in his own right. He truly is. But outside of that, man, they were not getting pressure from guys like Keon White or Lawrence Guy. Who else they had there? They had Detrick Wise. They just weren't getting adequate pressure from those guys. So with Judon there, it gives them a massive upgrade. The question is, can Uchi, because I think Uchi's got a ton of potential, can he rise to the occasion? Can Keon White trend in the right direction? His pass rush win rate last year was only 6.2. So we'll see. Anthony Jennings was fine, but it's not like his pass rush win rate was any better. 6.5, only had 21 pressures and 2 sacks last year. So yeah, I'm not too high on this pass rush unit in general, but this is a team that wants to stop the run, and they want to force the team to pass the football because, hey, they really trust who they have there in the secondary. We saw a very encouraging rookie year out of Christian Gonzalez that unfortunately got cut short. It really did. Like there was going to be a case to be made, I think, that he could have been defensive rookie of the year. I'm willing to go that far with it. Like the dude was good. He wasn't allowing touchdowns. He was getting his hand on the football. He was a sure tackler. Like, we already knew the sheer upside of Christian Gonzalez. We unfortunately just didn't get to see that, as he only played 4 games last year. Jonathan Jones has been a very solid player for this squad. Only allowed a completion rate of 57%. So that's middle of the road, but only allowed 1 touchdown, had 5 pass breakups. But they also get a healthy Marcus Jones, who missed almost the whole season. He only had 44 snaps last year. He missed it with what did he get banged up? Was it a shoulder? I feel like it was a shoulder. Yeah, a shoulder injury cost him his whole year. So I think he's going to come in and he's going to be a slot. That's why they part from a guy like Miles Bryant, who was not great. So he's going to come in and probably be the starter there in the slot. You go to like Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, probably one of the best safety units or safety tandems in the game right now. These are guys that will come up and make plays versus the run, but they'll also get their hands on the football. Like Peppers had 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups last year. You go to a cat like Duggar. He ends up having 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups. They weren't allowing touchdowns. Their completion rate when targeted was fine, but it was what they did as just being able to come up and make plays against the run, especially with Duggar, man. Duggar almost acted like a dime linebacker. He had a missed tackle rate under 10%, 15 pressures, 2 sacks. And this is a team that likes to either go really heavy or go really light. They'll bring in either a ton of defensive line players, like 5 defensive line players, or they'll go like 6 and even some cases 7 defensive backs deep. This is a team that likes to keep the defense just off balance, off tilt, and just keep them guessing. And I like that. I like that a lot about this squad. I have on the interior next to Christian Barmore, Devon, I think it's pronounced Gotcha, former Dolphin, fins up, baby, fins up, who doesn't get a lot of love because he's the guy that's going to eat up double teams, make plays in the run game, and kind of open it up for linebackers to come in and make the plays. He's just going to eat space. He does that very effectively, so let's not just crap on him because he's actually pretty darn good. Keon White, his role in this defense is going to be interesting as you look at like Keon White last season. He was used pretty in a versatile manner, I should say. as he had snaps on the outside. He also played quite a bit over top or inside of the tackle. So they like to use him in a versatile manner. For the most part, he's going to be taking up Wise's role in this defense. And then you got some absolutely big boys at linebacker. You truly do, as you got Jawan Bentley, who, man, I feel like is one of the more underrated linebackers in the NFL. Like, he's never bad. He's just solid, coming in at 250 pounds. He is a very good run stuffer for this unit. Had 39 defensive stops last year. His 13% missed tackle rate, that's on par with the rest of the NFL. But it was really Tavai who kind of broke out, as he's coming in, another heavy set linebacker, like old school thumper, coming in at 250, 255. But he was very adequate in the passing game. Though, to be fair, it's not like they schemed him well in that regard, but he was able to come up and not only make plays in the run game, but also made plays as a pass rusher, where he had 13 pressures and a sack. So again, they like those big boys at linebacker, and they kind of treat like a Kyle Duggar, play him around the line more as a dime linebacker. But now they also add Sione Takitake, again, coming off a solid year for the Browns last season. Let's take a look at the depth on this squad. And let's start with the defensive line, as they still got Wise there. You got Anthony Jennings, who I think is probably going to be the snap getter, and then it's going to be Uchi that comes in there as the rotation edge player. But they also have O'Shane Himes, formerly of ODU, formerly of the Giants, who's really just a rotation player at this juncture. William Bradley Keene, who I actually liked quite a bit coming out of Baylor. I like his ability to turn speed into power. Watch out for John Morgan, coming out of Arkansas, formerly of Pittsburgh, where he played next to Kalijah Cansey and wreaked all kinds of havoc. Last year was kind of stymied because of a neck injury, but he does a good job as kind of a 3-4 end, but also can play a little bit on the outside. Be on the look for him to potentially make the roster, or at least make some noise in training camp. Armon Watts is a solid rotation player. You got other guys like Tristan Hill. I'll be shocked if he makes the squad. He's just a big boy at this point. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But the defensive line, I think, is relatively solid. And now with Judon back, they get that bite when it comes to pass rush. When it comes to the linebacker group, you got your three guys. And then they got like a Roquan McMillan, another Dolphin player who injuries have kind of messed with his career. But at this point, he's really no more than maybe a special teamer. Really, the outside shot to look at is Jontre Hunter, coming out of Georgia State, who is another mean around the line of scrimmage type of linebacker. So be on the look for him potentially to make the roster. But the secondary, I think, is nice as long as they can stay healthy. I like the addition of Jalen Hawkins as some depth at safety and what he brings on special teams. Marte Mapu, I really liked coming out of Sacramento State as kind of a dime backer, a safety who we didn't know if he was going to end up transitioning to linebacker. Here they have him as a dime backer, and that's great. He had 500 snaps last year? Because I know he missed part of the year because of, was it a tricep injury? I think it was an arm injury. So he only had 200 snaps. So I look forward to seeing more of him this season. But man, if you have a corner go down, it's slim pickings. They drafted Dial in the 6th round. I won't expect much of him early on. They have Sean Wade, who they traded for fairly early on a few years ago, who might just be fine, and that's it. Isaiah Bolanin, another cat that they drafted a couple of years ago, actually last year, who really is just size and speed. Do they still have, who's the Michigan State player they had on this roster? I don't think he's with this squad anymore. But they bring in Marco Wilson off of waivers. That's neither here or there. I don't think he makes the squad. I mean, he could as just depth. I like Mikey Victor out of I think it was Alabama State. A cat that has size, dominated D2 football. Truly did. So be on the look for him. Caleb Ford Demet. Also another guy that kind of dominated there at Western Michigan the last 2 seasons. Maybe one of those 2 guys can sneak in and make the roster. They also have Alex Austin, who he was coming out of Oregon State. He was a very fine player. Probably just depth at this juncture, really. So if like you have injuries, then yeah, it's going to be a clench your butt cheeks. What's going to happen? Are we going to get exploited in the secondary because we just have that 1 weak link? But when it comes to like your Marcus Jones, I expect good things from Marcus Jones if he could stay healthy. I really liked him coming out of Houston. Always thought he was going to be a slot though. Jonathan Jones has been a very good corner for a very long time. Very solid. Literally the definition of consistency. Christian Gonzalez, I expect to see that next bump now that he's fully healthy. And then you got a really good safety core in general, honestly, like because I do believe in guys like Mapu and Hawkins. And then Bledsoe's been around with the squad for quite some time. Let's give a shout out to Del Pettis out of Troy. Constantly making plays around the line of scrimmage. Was a standout for me at the Hula Bowl. I had a draftable grade on him. Kind of figured he ends up being a UDFA, but look out. If anything lands with the practice squad. I'm kind of excited about that. But all in all, man, I think the defense, it's going to be rinse and repeat. It's going to look very similar to what it did last season, especially if they can stay healthy. But I mean, you retain the defensive portion of your coaching staff. Now they're the head coach. So yeah, I have a lot of faith in this defense. Where my faith falters is with the offense. Now let's get to what you came here for, and that's how I project them to do in the 2024 season, as I do have them having one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. It's going to be a tough ride here for the Patriots, but if things click, if May ends up being the guy and it becomes apparent early on that he is the guy, I think this team could get close to 500. I truly do. Let's say they maybe beat a team like the Seahawks. I think they'll probably split with the Jets. They'll probably split with the Dolphins. Fins up. Sucks to say that, but hey, the truth hurts sometimes. No one knows what the Jags are going to be. Are they going to be good, or are they going to be as inconsistent as they were last year? Let's say they sneak a win there. They could get one over the Titans, maybe even the Bears. Rams are going to be tough. I think they're going to be a tough squad this year. Let's see. Cardinals going to the bye. I think it's going to be tough to beat the Colts, but you do get that at home. It's plausible. Let's say they get wins here and here. So that brings them to 9 wins. So I think this team can get close to 500. I truly, truly do. But for me, 2 main questions with the offense. Are you going to be starting rookies on the left side of that offensive line? That doesn't sound good or promising. And the guys you have there anyway are kind of meh. When it comes to the receivers, there's no true number one. There's a bunch of guys that I like, but they're more complimentary level wide receivers, at least in my opinion. May. Is the offensive line going to be able to protect him if he ends up being the starter early on? And I feel like Brissett can only win so many games for the squad. So I do think the offense is going to let this team down at some points of the year. So I'm actually going to go with their floor, and I have them winning 4 games once again. So going 4-13. This is a team that just essentially started their rebuild. For the most part, like the defense feels like it's already there for them to compete, but offensively, again, you got a rookie wide receiver, potentially a rookie left tackle, potentially a rookie left guard, and a rookie at quarterback. Outside of that, you have bridge options to supplement those guys. I think the offense is going to let them down at some junctures. of the season. I'm not hating on them because I'm a Dolphins fan. I would love to see them do poorly, but this is a team trending in the right direction. You got your guy. You got, in my opinion, quarterback 2 in this class. You have some good playmakers there. You're just waiting to see, maybe can you get that alpha at some point? Or maybe do one of those rookies emerge as that guy? Maybe it's a Javon Baker. Maybe it is a Jalen Polk. The offensive line, I still got questions. I love City Sal. Will he make that next jump and be a good pass protector? Will they figure out the left side line? There's just too many questions for me to really buy into this offense right now. But the way they're trending, it is in a scary direction. And that's coming from a Dolphins fan. I don't want to see it. I don't. I truly don't. But it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you want more draft content, then check out my rankings videos. I just put out Edge this past, just last week. Or you can check out some of my other deep dive videos. You can check out that playlist right here. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.